Hello. Hello. I am so sorry for being so late. I'm sorry I got caught up, you guys, and then I wanted to work out some of the technical stuff. It looks like there's a little bit of a lag. But welcome to the Roe v. Wade community call-in event, where we will discuss with the community. And I will have an open line and an open Zoom chat for the community to call in and give their opinions on the recent court leak, the Supreme Court leak of the Roe v. Wade decision to overturn Roe v. Wade as a federally protected right and to return to the states the right to outlaw abortion or to regulate abortion as they desire. As we know, there are multiple states that have trigger laws that should this go into effect, and again, it is not currently in effect, but should this go into effect, many states are expected to immediately outlaw or severely restrict abortion access to women in the states. So I want to get into it, and before I open up the line, please check in the chat, there is a pinned message that has a phone number. That is the phone number and a Zoom. I am giving priority to those who RSVP'd. So I will let everybody know once it's open to the public. Right now, it is open to those who RSVP. You will sit in a waiting room, and I will select everybody one at a time. Please know that this time comments are going to be limited to 10 minutes each. Just to give as many people as possible a chance to comment. Last time, we didn't get to everybody and some of the comments went really long, so I want to make sure that everybody has a chance to comment. To be clear, this is a bipartisan, non-partisan event. Therefore, everybody from across the political aisle has a chance to speak. The only requirement is respect, but I welcome any and all good faith ideas. I will, I'm going to act as a neutral facilitator, and try to just give people the floor and let people speak as they wish. So, once you come on, the floor is yours. Unless you want it to be sort of conversational, but I prefer to have it where people give their opinion and the chat can respond. So let's see. And before we get started, I want to read a statement that was sent in by Biblio Wolf. You guys may recognize her. She's often, in the chat and in the comments. In the comments. And I want to read something that she sent to me, which was a proposed document. And it is entitled Women's Reproductive Rights, Human Sexual Health, and Unwanted Children Support Act. So this is just sort of an act that she came up with, that she is offering as just sort of a template, that she said that she came up with one night. So did I get sun? No, I'm just having a really bad hot flash. That's why I'm like bright red right now. I'm really hot. It's just my hormones, unfortunately. I wish that I had been out in the sun. So again, this is from Biblio Wolf. It is Women's Reproductive Rights, Human Sexual Health, and Unwanted Children Support Act. Document summary. The following 3 points of this bill amendment draft. So again, this is just an amendment draft that one of my subscribers sent in just as something that she came up with as a proposed amendment bill. The following 3 points of this bill amendment draft will be to guarantee all citizens of the USA based on their biological birth sex the right to sexual health care and bodily autonomy. In the case of females, this bill will guarantee access to necessary reproductive health care related to STIs, pregnancy, and a guarantee to convenient abortion access. This bill will also cover, actually, you know what? Let me see if I can put it up on the screen so you guys can read it along with me. I think that would be better. Sorry. Okay. Yes, this is a lot better. Let's do this. Okay. Okay, here we are. All right, so let's read this aloud. Or let's take a look at this together while I put the chat in front of it. Okay. All right, again, this is from BiblioWolf. Enable. Okay, so, and it says, this bill will guarantee access to necessary reproductive health care related to STIs, pregnancy, and a guarantee to convenient abortion access. This bill will also cover the first steps to protecting unwanted children because of abortion and economic factors preventing or eliminating an adult's ability to or desire to parent a child or children. Section 1. The biological female or woman's right to bodily autonomy. Summary. This section will require the national guarantee that women will keep or receive permanently the right to adequate reproductive health care, including and not limited to the choice to have an abortion, STI prevention, and pregnancy care. Section A. Abortion guarantee. The bodily autonomy of a woman is less than a corpse in all circumstances where a woman and her doctor do not have control over her reproductive decisions. Therefore, women must receive the right to an abortion if she requests one from a medical professional. Women must also have access to transportation to and from reproductive health care, pregnancy, and abortion services within her state or ideally county of residence. Why must this occur? A woman or mother bears 100% of the medical consequences of pregnancy as well as the financial consequences if the father refuses to acknowledge a resulting child after a birth occurs. Disagreement on abortion is grounds for a divorce. When an abortion occurs, it is between a female patient and her doctor exclusively. B. When the fetus becomes a legal person and the father of the pregnancy gains a say in the result of a pregnancy. After the fetus or potential life has its head outside the womb and the umbilical cord is no longer connected to the placenta and or the birth mother's body, the fetus reaches personhood status. This is regardless of viability. Therefore, the father or creator of 50% of the fetus potential life's genetic material only gains parental rights after the fetus becomes a person and is outside the womb. After birth, both biological parents, the biological mother and biological father, can give up custody of the resulting child individually if the individual parents or even one parent chooses to do so. So basically, I guess the father would not be responsible once the baby is born if he chooses to give up the resultant child, if the mother chooses to carry it to term. C. Abortion accessibility. Women must be able to access affordable abortion. The price of receiving an abortion or any reproductive health care annually will receive a price cap of 1% of the woman's annual income. The provider of care should be within the woman's state or ideally county of residence. If a woman cannot get to an abortion provider, a federally funded shuttle bus must transport patients to clinics in every county. States that supplement the funding of each shuttle buses will receive tax breaks. Clinics that lie about or delay abortion or reproductive health care and spread religious or other manipulative misinformation will be fined $250,000 for each reported offense. Clinic owners and anyone attacking or defaming abortion providers will receive prison sentences of 15 to 25 years. Let's see. Exceptions for exceptional circumstances for men. In the rare incidences of male rape victims, the scenario will result in the woman losing her parental rights after birth. This will be a prosecutable offense from the moment pregnancy is confirmed. Abortion cannot be forced on the woman in this or any circumstance as it violates her right to bodily autonomy. If this scenario occurs, the father receives exclusive parental rights unless he chooses to place the resulting child post-birth after reaching personhood up for adoption. Yeah, so to be clear, none of these are my ideas. This is a suggested amendment sent in from BiblioWolf, who comments. You guys probably have seen her if you're in the comment section a lot. She just sent this as something that she came up with. And I also do want to clarify that, none of this, all the statements belong to the authors of those statements. I don't necessarily co-sign any statements other than ones that I made. It's, again, the draft, it's a suggested amendment sent in by a viewer of the channel. Let's see. Okay, so section 2, human sexual health. Again, this is just a theoretical suggestion. Section 2, human sexual health summary. This section will cover the rights of both sexes to reproductive... hold on for 1 second. Sorry. This section will cover the rights of both sexes to reproductive health care, birth control, sterilization, and STI prevention. It'll also try to place protections regarding reproductive abuses and the protection of children. A. Female reproductive health care. Medical screenings must be covered by all government and private insurance related to reproductive health care. More information in section 2E below. B. Male reproductive health care. Medical screenings must be covered by all government and private insurance related to reproductive health care. More information in section 2F below. Sterilization. The goal of this section is to combine guaranteeing the right to bodily autonomy, including the ability to permanently prevent procreation, with common sense standards to preserve fertility and health in adults. 35 plus sterilization or reproductive procedures are allowed with doctor's approval for all patients regardless of reason for wanting the procedure done. If a doctor refuses to do the procedure, they must supply at least 5 in-state and 1 in-county option for the patient to get the procedure done. 18 to 34, sterilization or reproductive procedures will occur with doctor's approval. Approved scenarios will include if the patient has a serious physical illness, financial or other documentable or confirmable reason for wanting the procedure. This can include clearance from a mental health professional before scheduling such a procedure. If a doctor refuses to do the procedure after a mental health clearance, they must supply at least 5 in-state and 1 in-county option for the patient to get the procedure done. Under 17, minors cannot be sterilized or have reproductive procedures without significant life-threatening or debilitating condition. Examples include cancer, endometriosis, and any other significant purely physical illness. Conditions related to mental health will bar minors from reproductive procedures. Note about biological sex. Since female reproductive health care needs are more expensive than those of male, all costs of reproductive sterilization that are greater than the national average of costs of a vasectomy will count as a tax-deductible income. Surrogacy and bodily autonomy. The bodily autonomy and health of a surrogate must be prioritized over the life or lives of any fetuses she is carrying. Couples and individuals who hire a surrogate must have a contract written to cover unpredictable scenarios, but final decisions must be in line with preserving the pregnant woman's life and fertility. A surrogate cannot be forced to reduce, select on, or more fetuses to abort to keep the one or more the hiring individual or couple wants. In cases where a surrogate is medically recommended to abort, reduce, the decision stays with the pregnant patient and the doctor. If the hiring individual or couple does not want a child or children that result from a surrogacy, pregnancy, and birth, the genetic parent's rights will end or be terminated for that child or children. The surrogate receives first rights to custody and adoption. If the surrogate does not want to raise the unwanted child or children, they will be placed into state foster care system where the birth took place. Birth control for women. Women must be guaranteed access to condoms, see Section 2G below. Note about biological sex. Since female reproductive health care, birth control for men. Men must be guaranteed access to condoms, see Section 2G. Research on male birth control options beyond condoms and vasectomies must be funded by the health department. Section G, STI prevention, condom accessibility for both sexes. All citizens will be able to deduct up to 1% of their annually federally annual federally taxable income if it is spent on sexually transmitted infection, STI prevention. This is a guarantee to the right and financial ability to buy male and female condoms to reduce and prevent the spread of diseases within an individual and the population. Section 3, unwanted children support. Sorry, I'm going to get a tissue, guys, so I'm not constantly sniffling. Sorry. Sorry about that, guys. Section 3, unwanted children support. Summary. Unwanted children, child or children who are produced and end up with injuries or medical problems due to lack of abortion or adequate reproductive health care for the mother will need to be accepted by the mother or father, adopted, or placed into the foster care system if a biological relative does not claim the child. A. Consequences of lack of abortion access and creating unwanted children. We as a nation and society need to promote access to birth control to reduce the need for abortion and the number of unwanted pregnancies. Pro-life organizations will pay a 37.5% anti-pro-life hypocrisy tax to pay for the needs of unwanted children, general child care, daycare costs, and women who die due to lack of abortion access. Universal health care, universal child care, and adequate hourly wages that would allow for the average adult to support children on a single income. A national UBI program needs to be created that specifically targets low-income individuals and especially low-income families. The programs will make up for employers not paying high enough individual salaries for one income to support a family until, if, when wages nationally are raised significantly. Economics are one of the primary reasons women seek abortions. Citations can be supplied if needed. And the only common sense way to reduce the need for abortion is to make it affordable for a single income to support a family. The anti-pro-life hypocrisy tax will funnel 10% of post-tax funds to unwanted children and injured children that exist because of lack of abortion access. Approximately 10% of this tax will go towards daycare, child care funding, and 10% will go towards the National Family UBI program. It will also funnel 7.5% of post-tax funds to the funeral costs of women who die due to lack of abortion and adequate reproductive health care. B. Reproductive abuse or forced abortion and forced sterilization. Forced abortions and sterilization will not be tolerated. Forced abortion and sterilization will result in attempted murder charges on all parties involved in forcing a woman to be sterilized or have an abortion against her will. Penalties will include fines of up to $250,000 and prison terms of 15 to 25 years if convicted. Reproductive abuse or rape where the father lies to trick the woman into becoming pregnant or forces a sexual encounter will result in legal prosecution. This will include up to 15 to 25 years in prison and a 75% of the father's post-tax income and 100% of his assets being divided among his unplanned offspring as child support. Surrogacy and bodily autonomy. See Section 2D above. Document conclusion. The reproductive rights of all humans to decide if and when they reproduce must be acknowledged as constitutionally protected in human rights. The rights of children to be supported must be acknowledged. The right of a biological female, a woman, to biological autonomy must be codified. Alrighty, so that was from BiblioWolf. And just off the bat, I don't agree that men who don't want to have the baby should be let off from child support. That decision was forfeited at the point of deciding to have sex. Is it like lagging really bad on the screen? You know what? All right, that's better. And additionally, I don't think that women who are accused of rape should necessarily automatically have their parental rights terminated, but that's just me. Okay. So let's take a look at the Zoom. All right, so let's see. I don't have anybody. All right, so the Zoom is open. And again, the thing about the Zoom is anybody who wants to, hold on. Oh, shoot. Did I? Shoot. Did I just lose the Zoom box? Hold on, guys. Sorry. No. Damn. Hold on. I think I might have just accidentally put the Zoom. I hate this streaming program. Sucks. Okay, put that in there, and then put that in there. Screens. Okay, let's see. The you know what? I'm just gonna have to delete this one and re-add it. Yes, I'm gonna get rid of this. Window capture. Sorry, Zoom. Row. Okay, there we go. Okay. All right, so let's take a look at Zoom. All right, so if nobody enters the Zoom, I'm about to open up the phone line. Okay, so again, the phone number is 215-822-9105. So anybody, and again, the Zoom is linked. Let's see. The Zoom is linked in the pinned tab. And for anybody who would like to, let me just be sure. Hold on. Let me be sure that I have the correct, because I'm surprised that nobody's in. Let me make sure I put the correct. Yeah, so the Zoom ID is 261-826-2084, and the passcode is lowercase HX capital G 7 lowercase E D as in dog. So if anybody wants to call in, you guys can. Otherwise, if you guys don't call in, I will keep talking in the meantime. Let me just be sure that the wants to call in. Turn that down. Let's see. 822-9105-215. Yep. And then the zoo link. Okay, yeah. So, okay. Well, so anyway, I guess we'll talk about the document until I see that somebody is in. And if anybody enters the Zoom and I don't notice it, I'll put it right there. So just regarding the document, I guess my two biggest, and I've seen this elsewhere, the claim is that, women should not be forced to have an abortion if they don't desire one, but that, men who don't wish to continue with a pregnancy or parent a child have the right to opt out to parent and can forfeit their parental rights. And what we know is that will almost unanimously result in, especially for unplanned pregnancies, not unanimously, but hugely result in a lot of abandoned mothers. Women should not be coerced. I see that as a form of coercion. I think that happens to a lot of women where men will basically threaten, well, you're going to be on your own. I won't support you. And I think we see that a lot. That happens a lot now in general, where just women are basically told that they won't be supported and it was their choice. And, I think when you don't treat conception of life as beginning at conception, then we treat women who do decide to continue with their pregnancies as they're making the choice to have a baby, when the fact of the reality is, and the fact of the matter is that a baby already exists, right? The pregnancy has already happened. It's already started. So when we don't treat life as beginning at conception, we are harming women who don't want to be coerced into a surgical procedure or have their bodies and their wombs invaded and to have their children ripped from them, who don't want to have children ripped from them, right? So that's the reason why I say that I do believe that life begins at conception, just because it's scientifically true. It's a living thing that will continue to progress if left undisturbed and will result in a baby. However, I do believe that women, for any reason, have the right to access an abortion. And the reason why women get this choice over men without any say from a man is because they bear 100% of the reproductive burden, because they are the ones giving their children. The call-in, Jasmine, the call-in info is in the pinned, is on the pinned note in here. You know what? I'll put a, let's see. I'll put a, I'll also put it up on the screen because it's also in the chat. So, anybody who can see that it is in the chat. Let's see, for squints. All right, so let's do a new one. Okay, so phone number. It is 215-822-9105, and the Zoom is, let me just double check what the Zoom is. The Zoom is 261-826-084, and the password to the Zoom is H, lowercase h, lowercase x, G7ED. Okay. And we will put that on screen. Let's see. Note. I hope I can put this on the screen. There we go. Okay. All right. So that is that. All right, there we go. I'll just put it right there. And then let me just make this a tiny bit smaller. Okay. All right. So, do you need Wi-Fi? No. You can, the call-in number is literally like just picking up your phone and calling. You can call it from any cell phone, landline, any phone number whatsoever. And then I also wonder, let's see. Yeah, no, you don't. Pregnancy is a spectrum, so ending a 4-week pregnancy is different from ending a 21-week pregnancy or even a 30-week one. Until what point is it unethical to end a pregnancy? I believe that viability is up into the point that it's unethical because, like I said, the method of abortion up until viability, so in later stages of abortion, pre-viability, is just inducing pregnancy, and then the fetus cannot survive outside of the uterine environment. So then there needs to be an additional procedure to basically kill the fetus, right, before it's born. And then that results, and we've seen all the different, like I said, there's been different techniques, and I talked about it in my other live stream, that includes saline poisoning. It includes D&E, like a DNC, like a D in Cutteridge. Oh, it's not working? Oh, God damn it. You tried the 215-822-9105. Fuck. Oh, let me double check. Sorry, guys. It's the same one that I used for the GenSpect. All right, let's see. Two 215-822-9105. Yeah, damn it. That was the number. Fuck. Yeah, you know, the other damn it, the other option is, I don't want to put my number up there. Fuck. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know why, if it's not working. If someone else can tell me if it's working. Let's see. That worked last time. Yeah, that's crazy. So, yeah, I guess if it's not working, then I have to stick with Zoom, unfortunately. Sorry about that. It worked last time. And it still should be linked to here. Let's see. Let's see. Verify your... Nah. Yeah, it's... All right, so you tried the Zoom and got nothing. So the Zoom's not working either? What the fuck? Back to the meeting. Hold on. So let's see. The Zoom meeting, that could explain. So 261-826. The Zoom is 261-826 2084. Yeah, no, that's it. That's it. Oh, Christ. It's like always something, right? $826. Yeah, that's it. That's the passcode. See, I could put a link in. Oh, fuck. Fuck, it's not working. All right, I'm just gonna have to I'll start a new Zoom. Quit. I'll just start a new Zoom. And meeting for all. All right, so Zoom, new meeting. I guess while I'm doing that, I will put on like a news while I'm trying to fix it. Hold on. Roe V. I'll put on a news clip that we can take a look at. Let's see. Here, we'll do a Roe v. Wade explained clip. And then let's just add this while I'm fixing it.
Most Supreme Court decisions are granular, little noticed interpretations of the law and Constitution, but a few are landmarks. Roe v. Wade was a landmark. It effectively legalized abortion across the United States. Here are the facts and players in the case. Jane Roe was actually Norma McCorvey. She was a Texan in her early 20s who wanted to terminate an unwanted pregnancy in 1969. Abortion was legal in Texas at the time, but only for the purpose of saving a woman's life. That was not the issue for McCorvey. Her life was not at risk. She tried unsuccessfully to get an illegal abortion and was referred to 2 attorneys interested in challenging anti-abortion laws. The Wade in Roe v. Wade was Henry Wade, the district attorney of Dallas County, who enforced that Texas abortion law. McCorvey soon filed a case against him. The Supreme Court agreed in 1971 to hear the case, and on January 22, 1973, struck down the Texas law in a 7-2 decision. Justice Harry Blackmun wrote for the majority opinion and declared a woman's right to privacy under the 14th Amendment superseded a state's right to ban abortion. The court set different rules for each trimester. In the first trimester, the choice to end pregnancy was entirely up to the mother. In the second trimester, the government could regulate but not ban abortion in order to protect the mother's health. In the third trimester, the state could prohibit abortion to protect a fetus that could survive outside the womb, except when the mother's health is in danger. Justices Byron White and William Rehnquist dissented. They basically held the argument of privacy went far beyond the intentions of the constitutional framers, an argument that could signal the grounds for challenges to Roe. The 2 justices also stated the court's decision did not stick to the specific facts of this case because Roe was not in her first trimester at the time of the litigation. Public opinion was quickly shifting. In August 1972, Americans opposed legalized abortion, 46 to 42%. But by April 1973, it was 52 to 41 in favor. In the years since, Roe's been modified but not overturned. A notable example was in 1992, a case called Planned Parenthood versus Casey. For all intents and purposes, this...
And to be clear, you know, so Casey and Roe are the 2 most significant decisions that this whole overturning deals with, right? So this is the second modifier that this sort of the recent leak, you know, talks about. Oh, and also dystopian. I see you now. I just had to start it over. So guys, the Zoom is now working. So anybody who wants to line up in the waiting room, the exact link that I gave you, everything is correct. I just had to restart it and it's all working now. I don't know what's going on with the phone line. I'm really sorry about that. I'll try to troubleshoot that, but the Zoom is working. So if you add yourself now, you'll go into a waiting room and then I'll add you guys first come, first serve.
This is the new standard by which abortion cases are judged. The focus this time wasn't privacy. It was roadblocks, which had been intentionally set up to make it harder to get an abortion. In a 5-4 ruling, the court said restrictions are unconstitutional if they place an undue burden on a woman. Support for Roe v. Wade remains strong. A Kaiser Family Foundation poll in June 2018 found that 67% of Americans do not want the Supreme Court to overturn the ruling, while 29% do. The question now, of course, is what the Supreme Court will do with a solid conservative majority.
Okay, all right, cool. So that's just a little background. No one cares about what this guy has to say. Let's get him out of here. Okay, and let's see. All right, so we are, all right, dystopian, here we go. Sweet. Awesome. I'm going to make you larger. Let's see. So we're connecting to your, let's do, how do we share the screen? Oh, view. Here we go, speaker. Okay. All right. Yeah, you're connected through audio. Let me make this larger. Thank you so much for helping me fix this. I appreciate you. All right. Can you say something so I can just make sure that we can hear you? Okay. Let's see. Oh, I know why. I know what the problem is. Sorry. Let me. I know. Shit. Are you saying something? Preferences. Oh, output capture. Let me just check my preferences for the audio. Sorry, this is such a fucking pain in the ass. Desktop audio. Let's see. Output. Advanced. Damn it. I don't hear you. I should be able to hear you because I was able to hear the I was able to hear, let's see, oh, I don't hear you. This happened last time when somebody tried to, let's see, is that, I don't hear you. Test speaker and microphone. Hello, hello.
Built-in microphone. No.
Oh, there we go. Is that you?
Me?
Yay, okay. Yes. Okay, good.
Oh, I'm just here to make sure your Zoom's working. I don't have a lot to say about this particular topic.
No.
No. No, I just thought I'd let other
Thank
people.
you.
I just wanted to make sure your Zoom was working.
Thank you.
And, that other people can share their thoughts because I'd rather hear other people's opinions on it.
Yes, thank you. No, I really appreciate you. Good. We're good to go. Thank you. That was very helpful.
All right, so I'm going to go and let other people in.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Okay.
I appreciate you so much. All right, guys.
I'm
We are good to go. And I do feel like, I do think that this is kind of a difficult topic for people. And I also think that maybe my phone being fucked up is causing an issue. Not this one. So let's see here. All right. Yes, it is. It is much better now. I'm gonna get this guy out of the way. I gotta stop moving these windows off. All right, and then let's see. All right, so we can just keep, we'll just keep looking at, until people want to call in, we can just keep taking a look at different YouTube stuff in the meantime. Is this mine? No. I'm trying to figure out where did I put, okay, here we go. All right, so in the meantime, because I feel like I've said most of what I wanted to say on the topic in my earlier live streams. Okay, let's see. How long am I going to do this for? Oops. I have to leave around like 4:30 or 5. So, that's the absolute latest, but I wasn't planning to necessarily go that long. Let's see. Oh, and also, no, I don't want to do top chat. I want to do live chat. Okay, there we go. Okay. All right, so, and then, yeah, that's my call in. All right, so in the meantime, if anybody is not set to come in on the Zoom, again, anybody who wants to join the Zoom, and you don't have to, like we just saw with Dystopian, you don't have to have your face visible. If you want to be anonymous, there's a waiting room, and I'll let you guys in. Let's see. And damn, I really think, especially with my phone getting fucked up. Alright, but let's take a look at what other I mean, if let's see. Yeah, if you guys want to talk about the Amber Heard thing, we can talk about that too. I'm just, to be honest, I am surprised about the sort of just lack of reaction over Roe versus Wade in general. It just seems like a lot of people like aren't interested in it as a topic. And maybe it's because a lot of TERFs in general are both err on a lot of TERFs in general are kind of older. A lot of us are sort of outside of childbirth issues, and I don't know. I don't know why it seems like a lot of people aren't really like talking about this the way that I thought that they would. I feel like there's a really large population of child-free by choice women in the sort of like radical feminist community. Obviously, then there's another subsection of, antinatalists and separatists, or, it's older women, women who aren't interested in having kids. And then, we also have like the whole conservative side. The one thing about the whole Troon issue is that it's really brought together a lot of previously disparate groups, who have come together on this one issue. So, surprisingly, I thought that we would have more just a reaction, but like I haven't really seen a big reaction even from a lot of content creators. And I think that I wonder if maybe it's because Roe v. Wade has been such a long-standing decision that, a lot of us have never lived through a time without abortion. We just don't, maybe we take it for granted. I don't know. I think that it's, a lot of TERFs are not even close to radical feminists. There are a lot of pro-life TERFs I've seen. Yeah, well, but, TERFs, yeah. I mean, TERFs are radical feminists just in the name. I guess otherwise it would be gender critical, or I'm a wait and see person. I don't understand this leak. Yeah, and that's another thing too. I mean, I also think that we need to realize the sort of precedence that this leak sets. It's like this whole strong arming. It's really concerning when our institutions that we're supposed to be able to expect that is going to have due process and a process for handling things. The Supreme Court is not supposed to decide law. It's supposed to interpret pre-existing law. They're not, the Supreme Court is not a legislative body. And I guess that's the whole argument of that Roe versus Wade was an instance of the Supreme Court overstepping its function of an interpretive body and it's supposed to be a non-political interpretive body, and actually kind of acted as a legislative body, when there is no law that outright bans abortion, and maybe that was the point. And that was, and that's why they're saying if you want it to be a law, you need to legislate it as such. And that I don't disagree with. I don't think that we should be misusing, different legal apparata or different governmental apparata, because that is actually an instance of the government overstepping its authority. Right? Because on the one hand, we can sit and look and be like, oh, but it's it's always easy to justify it when it's the ends that you want, right? It's easier to justify the means, even if the means are illegitimate, when it serves you to the ends that you want to have served, right? But you've got to look at things from a longer perspective. You've got to look at things in that was my biggest issue with COVID, for example. Okay. So with COVID, we saw an unprecedented situation in which constitutional rights were just all out suspended, and people were okay with that because in the moment it was this big panic emergency thing. But that sets a precedence now that's scary, that we don't know how that's going to impact us down the line. For example, prisons suspended Rule 600. We have a constitutionally protected right to a speedy trial, right? We have the Constitution, then that protects people from just sitting and wasting away in prison on without being convicted of any, on charges that they have not been convicted of, right? The government has a certain amount of time in which they need to prove their case against you and earn a conviction from a jury of your peers, or come up with some sort of an agreement, some sort of a guilty plea agreement in exchange for a certain sentence that all parties agree on. During COVID, we saw people who had been, unable to pay bail, who had been convicted or charged with whatever crimes, people who had been maybe on probation because they stole a pack of gum. Then they got, charged with some other crime that maybe they were totally innocent of, are sitting and waiting. And the Rule 600, when you have finite deadlines, right? I think it's something like, if you are sitting in jail, you can only sit in jail for up to 12 months or something like that, or 6 months. I don't remember exactly. And the clock starts and stops based on if hearing is continued, and depending on who it's continued by. If it's continued by the prosecution, then the clock is still running. If it's continued by the defense, then the clock stops. So that, because the state shouldn't be penalized for the fact that you wanted to continue it, because you could basically run out their clock by continuing over and over, right? So I say that to say a lot of people sat in prison for unconstitutional amounts of time because they shut down all of the courts. It's like something we've never seen before. They weren't having hearings. People were sitting in jail. And that's scary. When we basically say that the Constitution of the United States is optional and it can only, it's applied sometimes, but there are these other times when it just doesn't need to be applied. That's basically saying if any part of our Constitution can just be that easily suspended, that means that it does not mean, and it is not as powerful as we think it is. And what was most heinous and horrifying to me were the amount of Americans who were so willing and eager to give up, to literally suspend their own Constitution. Our Constitution is to protect us from governmental abuses. Our Constitution is to protect us from a government that grows too strong and too large, and that basically, overpowers us and strips us of all of our rights and our sovereignty. Is to protect the people. And how quickly and easily people just threw that away. So again, we have to be careful about cheering on this ends that we think it's great one, if it is going to bully them into changing their stance, and the fact that it was leaked, that's not good. You guys, we've got to go through the proper processes. It's the same thing with, I remember when Casey Anthony was convicted for murdering, when Casey Anthony was acquitted for murdering her daughter, even though it was everybody believed that she was guilty. And I remember I had this conversation with my friend, and I think I had just given birth, and I was watching that. And I remember my best friend who graduated from Duke, and I remember I was going off about it. And she was like, Britt, you don't understand. She's like, this is a good thing. She goes, the state failed to argue their case. The onus was on them. Every single American citizen is innocent until proven guilty. That's a good thing. If they fail to properly argue their case, then she must be acquitted, whether she did it or not. We don't want mob rule. We don't want this because somebody's unlikable or unliked, or people think this, or if you can't prove that, then they have to remain innocent. We don't want it to be where mob rule takes over, where everybody decides that someone's guilty and you burn them out in the streets. They have that in South America. They have that in South Africa all the time. these like lynchings of people who have like, I guess rapists and stuff like that. And again, it's so easy to want to buck processes when it's something that we all can get behind. That's why when everybody's like, oh yeah, it's a child rapist or a child killer, of course everybody's like, yeah, burn him, kill him, who cares? Don't even waste your time taking him to trial. A bullet will do it. And it feels cathartic to say stuff like that because, again, when it's an ends that you like, but you've got to remember, once you've set that precedence, now it can be applied to an ends that is horrific, right? It can be applied to people who really are innocent. So for like in the Supreme Court situation, that can happen again, right? That can happen again when it's a bill or a decision that we support and that we want and that supports women, but that there would be a very loud and aggressive opposition to that if that gets leaked and then they bully the justices into changing their decision. Then we've lost all control. We've lost all control of our institutions. Then it really is just mob rule. And that's a dangerous place to be in. If we want Roe v. Wade codified into law, because the fact of the matter is that this decision is correct. It's correct. Roe v. Wade, we've had so much time to codify Roe v. Wade into law, and we haven't, because we rested on an interpretation of the Constitution, of the 14th Amendment right to privacy that was very abstract and very broad. And honestly, if anyone had really taken a look at it, would have been able to predict that this was going to happen, would have been able to predict that this was a broad overreach of the Supreme Court power that really they didn't have the authority to do. The Supreme Court does not have the authority to legislate. They don't. The fact of the matter is that Roe v. Wade was a weak decision, and it was a decision that was made on a very broad and abstract interpretation of what the Constitution says, and it really doesn't say what they argue that it says. So as much as I don't agree with the ends, I absolutely do not support stripping women's right. I absolutely do not agree with stripping women of abortion access. I do agree on the technical arguments that Roe v. Wade was built on a really shitty premise to begin with. And if we want to protect women's abortion access, we need to codify into law. Okay, so yeah, so that's my little spiel. So let me I got to take this call really quick. I'm going to put on something while we hold on, let's see. Let's just do another one of these. So let's just do an old throwback.
I need business communication that works anywhere I do. Some of the tools may work outside the office, but others definitely don't. Sort of a mess for IT. That's where Nixtiva comes in. Nixtiva has powerful, easy-to-use communication tools, which means deeper connections with your customer.
Let's turn to Roe v. Wade, because you, Justice Scalia, you had very strong opinions about it at the time. I know you do now. Why were you so violently opposed to it?
I would say violently. I'm a peaceful man. You mean adamantly opposed? Adamantly. Basically, because the theory that was expounded to impose that decision was a theory that does not make any sense, and that is, namely, the theory of substantive due process. There's a due process clause in the Constitution, which says that no person shall be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process. That is obviously a guarantee, not of life, not of liberty, not of property. You can be deprived of all of them, but not without due process. My court, in recent years, has invented what is called substantive due process by simply saying some liberties are so important that no process would suffice to take them away. And that was the theory used in Roe versus Wade. And it's a theory that is simply a lie. The world is divided into substance and procedure.
Should abortion be illegal in your eyes?
Should it be illegal? Yeah, I don't have public views on what should be illegal and what shouldn't. I have public views on what the Constitution prohibits and what it doesn't prohibit.
But I mean, the Constitution, when they framed it, they didn't even allow women to have the right to vote. And they gave women no rights.
Oh, come on. No rights?
Did they?
Of course. They were entitled to due process of law.
All kinds
You
of
couldn't send them to prison without the same kind of a trial that a man would
Right,
get.
but again, it comes back to changing times. The founding fathers were never going to have any reason at that time to consider a woman's right to keep a baby or to have an abortion. It wouldn't have even entered their minds, would it?
I don't know why. Why wouldn't it?
Because at the time it was just...
They didn't have wives and daughters that they cared about?
They did, but it was not an issue that they would ever consider framing in the Constitution.
I don't
But
know.
when women began to take charge in the last century of their lives and their rights and so on, and began to fight for these, everybody believed that was the right thing to do, didn't they? I mean, why would you be instinctively against that?
My view is, regardless of whether you think prohibiting abortion is good or whether you think prohibiting abortion is bad, regardless of how you come out on that, my only point is the Constitution does not say anything about it. It leaves it up to democratic choice. Some states prohibited it, some states didn't. What Roe versus Wade said was that no state can prohibit it. That is simply not in the Constitution. It was one of those many things, most things in the world, left to democratic choice.
After saving with customized car insurance.
All right. All right, let me take a look at some of these. How is the... Oh, Ariana's here. Okay, hey. Okay, cool. How is my audio, by the way? Is the audio sound okay? Is it, like, weird at all? All right, Ariana's here. Let me let her in. Sweet. Okay. All right. Hello. Hey, how are you? Thanks so much for being here.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Chat, can you guys hear her okay? Actually, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to switch mics. I'm going to this one on. Okay. Can you just say something?
Yeah. Hi there.
It's low. Is it better now, guys?
Is it better now?
Oh, I know why it was low. It's because I had it on the I know why the audio was low, because I had it coming through my mic. Okay, hopefully that's better. All right. Is that better, guys? So let me just be sure. Okay, good. Okay, yay. Okay. Thank you so much for calling in, and I want to hear anything you have to say. So, floor is yours.
Okay. Well, first of all, thank you, Brittany, for doing what you do, and especially on this topic in particular. I have actually never heard anybody that didn't have a extremely partisan viewpoint on this, and usually neither viewpoint is ever based in logic or anything in reality. It's either just, it's okay to just abort children whenever, and like women have the right to choose, but there's no explanation given as to why that's important. Or on the other extreme, it's always wrong. Law should be based in morality. And what's interesting is, before you posted about the Philippines, I was listening to an excerpt from Charlie Kirk. I know some people in here are probably going to be upset about that name or whatever, but I wanted to know what he had to say, because he's obviously, a right-wing commentator, if you will. And his argument just didn't make much sense to me. So when I heard what you had to say, it finally put the pieces together, because I haven't had an opinion on this one way or the other. I've been really not swayed. So to my point, it's refreshing to hear that you can have a moral stance on something, but still have pragmatic reasons for why it is necessary. And an example that I know of personally, I know a woman who's a friend of mine who she ended up having her child, but when she was pregnant, the father of the baby made a joke while they were out rock climbing, supposedly a joke that, you know, he wondered what would happen to the baby if she fell.
Wow.
And he's not in that child's life at all. He totally abandoned her after she decided to keep the baby. And I think that if we, I mean, you know, her decision was her own, and she loves her child and everything. But if we outlaw abortion, then we are going to have more men possibly killing or hurting mothers of children that they don't want to have, whether or not that mother wants to keep that baby.
Absolutely.
And so, I mean, even just like recounting her story, it breaks my heart, because that's not okay, you know. And I see the consequences of, if we take away this choice, a woman's autonomy to go through this medical procedure, that, you know, they may cause undue harm to themselves out of desperation. So what are we left to do then? You know, and then also face legal repercussions on top of that. So yeah, so that is, I'm just refreshed to hear your perspective that, yeah, it's a tragedy in every case, but there are some instances where it's necessary for the survival of the mother or for her well-being in life. So yeah, I'm still formulating my thoughts on this, but your perspective has been instrumental, and I'm just grateful to have heard it. So thank you.
Thank you. No, and I think that's Ariana. I just want to like comment more on what you said. That is a really big concern. Actually, is this is stupid. I'm gonna have to like restart my stupid meeting in a second. In 10 minutes. But that is a really good point, because that was a concern that I guess, and I need to break it down more. But there was a statistic that crime rates prior to abortion, or when abortion is outlawed, spike. And I think that there's like several layers of explanation for that. I don't know if it was like fully broken down, or no, I think it was 15 years. Okay. So 15 years after abortion is outlawed, crime was spiking because it was a lot of unwanted children who were frustrated, not properly taken care of. And you're right. Femicide is a huge problem. And we see that a lot in Brazil. A lot of pregnant women are killed. And, you know, when women don't have that option, that happens all the time. I mean, guys, you know, men will lie and they'll really have another family, and they get a woman pregnant, and then, you know, that's the solution. You know what I mean? It like you said, it's to kill women, and it is horrible. And it's like, there was also a story I had seen where it was this father who basically, the mother went into labor and had a very complicated labor, and there was some sort of like crisis happening, and the father was given a decision. It was either he could choose to have a cesarean section and save the baby, or give the mother life-saving treatment, but the baby would die. And he had to make the decision, because I think the mother was in some sort of like an induced coma. And he chose to save the baby and let the mother die. And I bring that up because I worry how much it's like, you see these men who are so hardcore pro-choice and all this pro-life and all this sort of stuff. And it's like, is it really pro-life? You know, it's like, there are times, if the mother is going to die, is that a pro-life choice? And I think that it's like, we prioritize the fetus. We will prioritize the baby, again, because that's the legacy of the father. You know, that's the father's child. That's the father's property and things like that, you know. And it's like, is that really a pro-life choice? That's a pro-baby choice. That's not necessarily a pro-life choice. So, yeah, I also worry about violence against women if we eliminate access to abortion care. So I think it's a really powerful point. And this is the sort of nuanced stuff that isn't being talked about, you know, when we hear all the sound bites.
I guess another point to that is, you know, hearing Charlie Kirk talk about it. He's a man, and he's coming from a religious standpoint, you know, but he doesn't have, I mean, and I would say this is for a large majority of the people that think like that are also men. They don't have the firsthand experience or even the knowledge of what a woman experiences and all the possible different cases like incest or rape or things like that. And they think, oh, well, they could just give it up for adoption. But like you were saying, it's not like the baby just pops out of nowhere and here we go, it's going off to adoption. It's like the woman has to carry that. And if she's 15 or 16 years old, that could be extremely damaging to her. And that's also psychologically traumatizing. It's not right to tell women, especially, I'm sorry, I just don't think men really have a place in this conversation to the fullest extent. I think that, well, anyway, I think that fathers could have could be asked their opinion and provide it, but they don't get to make the final say. But with that being said, who are we to tell a woman who has something growing inside of her that she has to bear that, even if it was conceived under the most dire of circumstances against her will? It's just wrong. So yeah, and I guess to that point though, I do not think that women should just be carelessly going out and having recreational sex without any fear of consequence because they think that, oh, well, I'll just have an abortion, because they are not educated on what that will actually do to them in the long term. I think women should be educated and armed with every possible knowledge to know how to prevent pregnancy if they don't want it. I think that's where we start. Let's not have that happen in the first place as much as we can. And where it's unavoidable, where it's a product of rape or incest, then women deserve to have that option available to them. So
yeah, absolutely. And let's stop selling women the lie that like birth control and abortion is this like magic, you know, silver bullet that will equalize women as men so that they can start, you know, participating sexually as men and act sexually as men. And the fact of the matter is that we're not. We lose that game. When we try to be on par with men sexually and have, you know, a whole bunch of partners and be super cavalier about it, we will always lose that game, you know, for several reasons, you know, and it's putting women in really dangerous situations for that to happen to them. And they're told this lie, oh, you know, hot girl summer, city girl summer, you know, girls up 100 points, like they're like, and it's like as if it's all good. But then, you know, we don't see the fallout. We don't see the Plan B pills. We don't see the, you know, the 2 weeks later, the you know, the pregnancy, whatever. And I also think that, you know, on the one hand, it's women become very cavalier about it, but it's like they're also like told to be cavalier about it. It opens them up for recreational sex. It makes them sexually available. If you can convince women that, yeah, this is good for you, you're in control, you can, you know, choose, oh, like, you know, when you convince women that we can divorce ourselves from our biological reality, which is that sex is a procreative act, putting women in a really dangerous position, and is not for the benefit of women. It's for the benefit of men, whose procreative drive is to impregnate as many women really as possible.
I think there's a lot of layers of programming socially and consciously towards young girls and women, especially as the generations have gone on. You know, now, I mean, coming back to the trans thing, we're telling girls that boys can be girls even though they have penises.
Right.
And so it's confusing a lot of young people, teenagers. They don't realize that they're at risk for pregnancy because they don't understand basic biology.
Right.
So it's all interrelated. The way that we're teaching people, I think your idea about doing something with the midwives is so valuable.
Yes.
And the doulaship and everything. If we could teach children what the family is and what children are, what they're the product of, we don't have to go into the whole sexual aspect necessarily until they're ready, but understanding what it means to reproduce, because we're so divorced from our bodies and the facts of life and how we come into being that we don't understand these things. I think that's really the root of the problem. So I don't know. I don't know too much about what's going on with the Roe v. Wade possible overturn. To be honest, I'm not as up to date on that as I could be. But I hope that if anything, the government can just step back from overreaching its powers. And to be honest, that really should be something left to the states. As far as the 10th Amendment is concerned, it's not enumerated in the Constitution for the federal government to decide that. So that should be up to the states. And then that's a battle that we could actually fight at the state level.
Right.
And to ensure that with legislation rather than relying on the Supreme Court to make these decisions, because they are not lawmakers.
Right.
So,
right.
Yeah, so I think we have a social responsibility to teach the younger generations what they need to understand about life, and then we can handle things at a legal level as well to ensure that women's rights are protected.
I agree. Yeah, thank you so much. I really appreciate your input. I love hearing from you. Thank you.
Thank you, Brittany. I appreciate your time.
Thanks so much.
Bye.
Yeah, I think that's a really good... All right, I'm going to restart this. I'm glad it didn't cut her off. I was like, please don't cut her off. Oh, fuck, of course. It's like right when everybody like... All right, you guys, call back in a second. I'm sorry this is so ghetto. I'm sorry. I'll get better. Or I'll just stop being cheap and pay for the Zoom. I have to restart it. Not now. I'm going to restart the meeting. I'm so sorry because I see all you guys. Of course, now all you guys are in. And I love it. I love it. I love it. Okay. All right. Call back. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, you guys. I'm sorry. A lot of this is like just trial and error. Ariana, you're awesome. I really, and again, it's like, you know, pregnancy. All right. Let me just make this one point. Okay. Because my other problem is when we teach women that it's like, oh, you know, abortion, shout your abortion. It's no big deal. We can say that till we're blue in the face. The fact of the matter is the strongest drive known to man, known to animal existence, mammalian existence, is the maternal instinct. And through a pregnancy, you know, a woman, again, I mean, we see mammals, we see animals are the female of that species is self-sacrificing on behalf of her children. A female in the species will, you know, face sudden death to protect her offspring. Humans are no different. Okay, so to act that there is no emotional tax on a woman, and this isn't about shaming or trying to create one for women who don't feel that. This isn't about trying to be like, oh, you should feel that if you don't. This is about the fact of the matter is that a lot of women will. A lot of women will, and we are hardwired to be protective of our children, our offspring, and our pregnancies, right? So, Rachel D said, I echo what she said about appreciating nonpartisan views. Yeah. Sharon Gibson said, if decisions around pregnancy have the potential to be psychologically traumatizing, then think very carefully before getting pregnant. We bear the burden. We are not equal when it comes to having sex. Exactly. We are not equal. That's why get off of social media, get your kids off of social media, let children in the birthing room again. And this is why I really advocate for home birth, and that's a whole different, and I'm not saying, listen, not every woman is equipped to have a home birth. There are a lot of scenarios and a lot of pregnancies that cannot be done at home. When it can safely be done at home and a woman is comfortable having a birth at home, involve your children. Involve your, you know, the children in the family. Let them be around. Let them hear. Let them see what birth is. Because when we become disconnected again, children grew up witnessing birth. Children grew up witnessing breastfeeding. Children knew what breasts were for. And it wasn't for sexual playthings for men. Children knew that breasts were the source of nourishment for babies. You know, children had a healthy and deep and profound respect for the labor that goes into childbirth. You think those little boys are going to be as cavalier when they grow up and they see what it is to give birth? If they have any respect for women whatsoever? It's the same thing. It's like it's like when children, you know, when you try to tell like a little kid that a hamburger from McDonald's was once a cow, they laugh. They don't get it.
They just can't make that. It's such an abstract thing to them. They can't make that connection in their mind. When we were hunter-gatherer societies, when we were farming societies, and you had to see that cow be slaughtered, and that was a cow that child grew up with, that child watched be born, that child took care of for its entire life, that child watched from birth, watch it grow, watch it become a full-grown cow, and had to watch it be slaughtered and cooked and taken apart and cut away meat from its bones. Do you think that child is going to be so cavalier about throwing that food on the ground? Do you think that child is going to have an extra layer of respect for the sacrifice that went into that hamburger? Do you think that little boys who see their mothers practically split open, who see the blood and the glory and the beauty and the horror and the magnificence of childbirth are going to be so cavalier about placing an unwanted pregnancy on a woman? We've got to stop separating children from natural processes. We've got to stop hiding things. Let this be a normal part of the family again. Let children understand what breasts are for, even before they can get programmed and wired. Because you know what, my boys, it doesn't matter how many images they see sexualizing breasts. They already know what breasts are for. They've already watched me breastfeed across 4 children. They've already seen it. They've watched other mothers breastfeed. They've sat in rooms full of women talking and breastfeeding openly. They already know. No amount of external messaging is ever going to change their understanding of what a woman's body is. My sons have seen me give birth to their sisters. No amount of programming is going to erase that from them. All right, let's see if anybody... All right, so Zoom, are you guys back in here? All right, let's see who's next. Erica, let's do it. Okay. Hello, Erica. Let's get you up on the screen. All right. Let's see. I can't hear you. Let me just make sure. I'll do a test. Oh, there you are.
Right here.
Hello.
Hi.
Thank you for being here. What would you like to comment on?
Hi, Brittany. Long time listener, first time caller. My name's Erica. I live in Indianapolis, Indiana. This is the home of Eli Lilly and IU Medical. The Kinsey Institute is in Bloomington at IU University, my alma mater, about 45 minutes away. It's a pretty liberal city. It's like the 2 liberal pockets of Indiana outside of the rural, more conservative areas. So that's a little bit about where I'm coming from.
Interesting.
And so I had some notes, what I was going to say. 1 second.
Take your time. I know it's really weird. Trust me, the first time I went live, I was like, fuck. I was like, hello. It's really weird, so take your time.
Yeah, thanks. So basically, I think the root of the reason why this is so controversial is just that it all comes back to the culture of abuse and male supremacy that is so ingrained in society, and it doesn't matter if you are liberal or conservative, and because nobody can agree on what well-being is, because the majority of people identify with the culture of abuse and are subconsciously male supremacists.
Wow.
Whether it's the pro-birth zealots or the antinatalists, or even more covert forms of abuse, like telling women that any choice that they make is empowering, or that we should behave like men for success and fulfillment, or the opposite, that we should relinquish our power, to have our needs met through the submission to a man. So that's all abusive, and it's all male supremacy. And I was talking to a pro-life zealot about abortion, and he somehow yeah, oh yeah,
Of course.
imagine that, right? And I really liked your observation that the only reason why men really give a damn, a lot of them, is because the offspring is, in part, that's a man's offspring, so they are willing to prioritize that over the life of the woman. But basically, he let me know that women have one job, and if they need, quote, need a abortion, whether it's medical emergency or otherwise, that they aren't worth their life anyhow. And so, but liberals and conservatives both massively oversimplify women's issues, which, require a lot more complex analysis and nuanced decision making. And it's because of this rubric of life and society, which is laid out in patriarchy, which is that the man is the rubric, and everything else is sort of determined based on that heading.
Why do you? Sorry, I don't mean to interject. Why do you think, for example, women, and I even see this in myself, are so afraid to give up patriarchal systems and programming? Why do you think that threatens women? Because I've seen it even in myself when I've been confronted with certain things. And as I go down this process and I start to become more aware, and I talk to other women, and when I've confronted other women with certain things, why do you think even women become so reactive and defensive when confronted with their thinking that is influenced by patriarchal programming? Why do you think there's such even a resistance from women to give it up?
Right. Yeah. I think it's just because that's how powerful it is. That's how powerful the lie has been, that's because that's what we see modeled over and over again. And, so patriarchal leadership is a man who says, hey guys, I'm going in this direction. And so I'm going to now turn my back to you, and now you all follow me. And so some women adopt that same kind of power dynamic, that's just the internalization of patriarchy, because it's so powerful. It's just so pervasive. There's like no way to deny that. Whereas more, I think, more naturally female or feminist type leadership is the leader turns towards the group or groups, within the group and sees that everyone is accounted for and that everyone's needs are met and voice heard. Still, able to make final decisions, but, like the building consensus and things like that. There's just so much powerful messaging, and over through history, this kind of way of managing life, so.
And I think even part of that messaging is not just the power of men, but it's the powerlessness of women. So it's this kind of fear where it's like, well, if not men, then who? Us? No, I'm not prepared for that. I can't.
Yeah.
There's just this sense of dependency.
Right. And it's also, so, patriarchy also relies on, it's not just male supremacy, but it's also like the strong necessarily having power over the weak, you know, because women can take that on as well. You know, I mean, it can happen even, you know, with their children.
Right.
Or with, you know, if say they are maybe in some kind of leadership role in their company or something like this, we can definitely see that.
Right.
But yeah, it's like we're all very browbeaten about our quote unquote, you know, weaknesses. About, you know, so yeah, that's been very powerful. That has been and prolific, you know, it's been lasting a long time.
Yeah.
So,
and also, you know, I glad to hear you bring up even just choice feminism, and that's another thing that I've, you know, been having to take a long time to unpack, that not every decision that we make is not every decision made by a woman is a pro-woman decision, you know, and it requires us to really step back and analyze every, you know, position, because again, we have to remember there is a lot of woman messaging that has been packaged and sold to us as feminism, right? You know,
yeah, 100%.
and we need to be careful of that, because there can be wolves in sheep's clothing in so many different contexts. That, you know, there's obviously the obvious one, you know, the sex work is work, okay, you know, or the you know, trans women are women, you know, but we also need to be careful again, because then there's a nuance, you know, of even like abortion, you know, abortion is totally liberation, or the opposite, that pro-life is totally, it's like, you know, just there needs to just come back to just a fundamental respect for not putting ourselves, allowing ourselves to be used and forced into these sort of positions, you know, and that there's consequences that women will reap regardless, across the board. You know, we just need to be so much more protective of our space, I think.
Definitely. There is so much ignorance and neglect of women's issues, you know, on both sides. It's like really oversimplified, and you know, I am coming to the conclusion through these debates that the world really doesn't know what a woman is.
No, you're right.
Even people who call themselves radical feminists, you know, and of course, including, you know, the pro birth zealots,
right?
And you know, myself included. I mean, I can think of how in the past I have been brainwashed to have different ideas of what empowerment is that were actually categorically self-harm.
Absolutely.
You know? So yeah, so the more we identify with this culture of abuse, whether it's on the right or the left side, you know, the harder it is for us to fight it.
Absolutely. Erica, thank you so much. Well, this is really just powerful comments. I really appreciate you calling in.
Thanks. Yeah, thank you so much. Thanks for everything that you are doing. I hope you get, you know, your message out as far as it can possibly go.
Thank you. Our message, you know, I love sharing this platform with you guys, because honestly, like it's even interesting, like going back and reading and even listening to some of my older videos, and even just in the span of the few months that I've had this channel, I've learned so much. And the only thing that's changed, you know, about my education is just my contact with you guys, right? So you know, prior to that, you know, you guys challenged me a lot. Hearing from you guys is why I love having, you know, this platform, this call in, just hearing from you guys, connecting with you guys. It's really such a gift. So I really appreciate you calling in, Erica. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Take care.
Yeah, you too. Bye.
All right. Well, that was really interesting. All right. Next we have Isabel. Let me actually hold on for 1 second. Hold on for one second, guys. Hold on for 1 second. Sorry. That is definitely my mom who just walked into my house when she knew that I had a live stream. Let's see what time. Yeah, that's okay. Anyway, let's see. All right. Izzy, there we go. Who just walked into my house? Of course it would be my mom. Of course. Okay. Go. Hello.
I hope this works.
Hey, Isabel. Yep, we hear you.
Oh, that's good. Very good.
Yay.
I would have my webcam on, but the way the sun is behind my window, and it causes a nasty ass glare. I just can't see
Totally
with the damn.
fine.
Okay, so like just as a preamble, like I found your channel through a few other, like I think it was Vanessa Voki actually, and I kind of like how like most feminists aren't like pro gun or whatever and stuff like that. So you were like kind of like you did like midwifery, you were pro gun, like actually like pro woman and pro like woman's choice. And like, well, this is an interesting perspective. I should watch it. And so in the case of the abortion thing, because I'm Canadian and I know like we're just above you guys, and there's been some talk here. Oh, will Roe v. Wade affect us? And not really, because with us in the 80s, an abortion doctor named Morgan Taller had launched a Supreme Court thing, because we have a Supreme Court as well. And our parliament and the Supreme Court said, yeah, there's a right to an abortion, kind of similar to the UK. Mm-hmm. So our conservatives are really cocked. You're really going to be hard pressed to get them to overturn it, because both of our like the highest court and the parliament said, yeah, okay. So
interesting.
Up here, it's pretty much when you're 12, it's like as early as 12, you can, if you request an abortion, it's pretty much on demand. You can get birth control and all that stuff. There's not really a big religious thing that backs it up. Even a strongly Catholic province like Quebec kind of isn't really all that Catholic anymore. They're more secular. So it's not like a huge issue. You don't see people bombing clinics, which was the case in the States, or anything like that. And for me personally, when I was in high school, I knew a girl who was dating someone who was 19. She was 14. And it was kind of a little bit of a power imbalance when you're that young and you have someone who's an adult. Although if they were both adults, I wouldn't mind the 5-year age gap. But since she was 14, he was already a legal adult. It was really, the power dynamics are unfair. And I remember her telling me she induced a miscarriage by pressing very hard on her stomach to induce it. I don't know if she ended up getting an abortion or not, but that was something that I knew. And then before I was born, my uncle, he didn't want children at all. So he impregnated 2 women, one twice.
Oh, did you comment
this? Of all 3.
I'm sorry to interject. Did you comment it? Okay, I remember this comment. Go ahead.
Yes, I did. Yes. And my uncle, yes, he paid for the abortions of all 3. He didn't want any of them. And that attitude is just one half of like the male aspect to abortion. The other half is, oh, it's murder, or we should punish the women as sluts or whores. That's pretty much what they view it as. And it's just like, that men are 100% responsible for all pregnancies.
Yeah,
they chose to ejaculate in the woman to create the child, and they didn't bother to have that conversation with with her about whether they want the child. It's just like, oh, let's bang, let's do it, and then it's over. And that kind of attitude, I think you have touched on, is that past the sexual revolution, a lot of women went into sex with the attitude of men, and like we can just have sex and then it's over. And I think that's one thing they didn't teach in sex ed, is that we do interpret sex and receive sex differently than from males. For us, it's not like we're called the gatekeepers of sex, and that's true. We choose our mates, and we really want to, it's like a reverse mate party. We want the male to invest in paternity and care for our offspring. And in this case, it really just seems to cop out for men who don't want to accept paternity. And on the other half, it's men who say, well, you should give it up for adoption, but they're not adopting, or they're not wanting to assist with the adoption process. Mm-hmm. And the other argument I've heard is, oh, well, the pro-lifers give a lot to charity or to these organizations. Like, yeah, you do, but you still complain. Like, I get comments like this all the time when I ask them, well, why aren't you adopting any? Like, well, no, it's a hole in my pocket. Right. I don't want my taxes paying for it. But it's like, you want those children to live. Right. Who do you expect to support them? They don't really want to support the mother or her child. They just want to punish her and say it's murder. And for me, I'm also in agreement that yes, life does begin at fertilization. You have a new cell, a potential new human, but it's not sentient. It doesn't have a brain. It's not aware of its own existence. It can't comprehend its own existence. Right. I think unless you have a medical emergency, if you do like a really late term abortion on purpose, I do think that's a little, like the one, what was it, the Virginia law that was like 40 weeks? That's just too extreme for me. Yeah. Yeah. Like at that point it's viable, but before, like when it's like 11 weeks or earlier, there's no brain activity. It's just, I don't want to call it a clump of cells. It's just, but it is kind of what it is. I know it's bad terminology, but it's oh wow, I'm stuttering, man.
I almost think, just to interject, I almost think that we don't need to find a euphemism. Like, we can acknowledge that it is a very tiny life and preserve the seriousness of it, while still legitimizing that the life and even the quality of life and the needs of the mother, for whatever reason she's chosen, still take priority, right?
Yeah. I definitely, in this whole conversation, it's just, there's just no talk of the mother. It's like one of the memes, it wasn't a meme, but it was like one of the conservative things is just like, it was like, my body, my choice, but then they interject, but it's not your body because you have a new life form. But it's like, it still is my body because I'm gestating it. I am nurturing that life form. It's still my body. But to them, it's like the woman ceases to be a separate human being once she gets pregnant. It's like the fetus takes precedence over everything else. And when they discuss, well, most abortions are done out of convenience, as well as not really convenience. Most of those women already have children, or they can't afford another, or it's some socioeconomic problem. And again, that also has to rely on the man or the father who keeps impregnating the woman without having that candid discussion. Should we have any more children? Right. And they just want to blame it on the woman all the time. And it really irritates me because, again, like, I don't approve. Like, there were a few TikToks where this one blonde woman had a glass of wine, and she's like, oh, I'm pregnant. Oh, I guess I'm just going to get an abortion. And she's like, and that a lot of pro-lifers just latched onto that. And I'm thinking, yeah, you are the poster child of their movement.
Was
where
it,
they
do you think it was like rage bait or was it serious?
I have no idea. It could
It's
have been
so
a mix
hard
of
to tell
both.
anymore with a lot of these things.
It is.
It's like,
It is. I don't know, but I always interpret it like assume it's serious unless it isn't, because that's just the way it is now. Like some of the troll bait is so good, you have no idea whether
well,
they're
and that's
being
the
serious
thing.
or
And
not.
it's like you almost have to treat it as it's serious, because even if it wasn't intended as serious, the fact of the matter is that a lot of people are not that critical. So people are going to look
Yeah.
at there was like one of the videos I did was about trans pregnancy, and there was this TikTok trend of trans identified males pretending to be pregnant. And people are like, "Oh, but it's not real." I'm like, the fact of the matter is, it doesn't matter whether they knew it was real or not. There's a lot of kids who are going to be looking at that saying, "Oh, wow, see,
Yeah.
look, trans women can get pregnant. They can have babies."
Yeah.
And then the kids are going to become so much more cavalier about sterilizing themselves. They're like, "But no, I already know. I've seen all these trans women who are having babies." And might not even
Yeah.
communicate that that's their line of thinking because they're so young and immature.
Yeah, and that's another problem. It would just in general, like, if there's another Zoom talk, I'll go all about that. But since this is abortion, yeah, there was one article I read where, and this was mentioned about how Roe kind of really was, it should have been one of the arguments I've heard is that it should have really been codified like when Obama was president, because then you had control of the House and the Senate.
Right.
He kind of balked at that, and they really should have been more on the offensive, because now the pro-life is on the offensive. They are being very aggressive, and they get the Texas bill passed with the vigilante laws. They got Missouri wants to do it. Oklahoma just did it. Then you have Louisiana that wants its personhood, like the zygote is a person, and anything that prevents implementation would be considered homicide, which could include birth control. It's just
so
insane.
like what because somebody had mentioned that on asked about emergency contraceptive, and from my understanding, I was like, because it is classified as contraception and it's not actually an abortion pill, but there is, even though it's not fully proven, there is evidence to say that it can prevent, in some cases, a fertilized egg from implanting. So maybe you're right based on what you're saying. That could be impacted. That's awful.
Yeah, the laws are just so vague, and with the vigilante bills, because really that's what it is. The same people who complained about like setting up the hotline bills for calling in family members who are outside during COVID. What it is, it's a snitching bill. It's a snitching bill.
Turning people against each other.
Yeah, exactly. And it's kind of something you see like in East Germany or communist Russia's neighbors turning on neighbors for some kind of an actual or perceived slight.
Literal Nazism. It was about calling in and telling on people who were harboring Jews.
Yeah, exactly.
The Underground Railroad.
Yeah. And one of it's just like, if you want to reduce abortion, like this argument has been brought up a lot. It's just you need like better sex ed, and I don't mean like stuff like the genderbread or teaching 6-year-olds about anal sex, like age appropriate stuff that goes in. And I really think should be an emphasis on the female body, how we interpret and receive sex, the like mate bonding, like.
Yes.
Like when a girl, I think this is correct, and I say it just to leave it up there, so if people can correct me, they can. Like when a girl or a woman loses her virginity, she'll bond with the first man who takes that from her. Like
she bonds with any man. Women release oxytocin during every vaginal intercourse. So she might be able to override over time. Maybe override that sort of bonding, but that's why sexual contact, casual. I've always said casual sex is not a healthy plan for women. When the fact of the matter is that we bond with our partners neurologically in ways that men don't. Men release dopamine, women release oxytocin.
Yeah, and that's definitely important to teach girls and women, and especially like Republicans, like it's like they know what a woman is when they want to ban abortion, and Democrats want to play the semantics game. Oh, it's people who get pregnant, blah blah blah. And what I like is that you explicitly talk about females, motherhood, and then you have like gynecologists like Dr. Mama Jones, who refuses to use pregnant woman, but then 5 minutes later she used the difference between male and female fetuses. Like, well, how do you know the difference between them if you can't define what a woman is?
Right.
And it's just like, if you can't say abortion or reproductive rights are important for women, then you can't defend it in law whatsoever. And, you know, the Republicans or pro-lifers have seen this chasm. I have slips over that. They jumped at the opportunity. They got it. They've sunk their teeth in, and they're not going to let go. So with the whole Roe v. Wade thing, with the protest, honestly, I'm kind of glad it was late, because otherwise it would have hit a lot harder in June.
Right.
Like, a lot of people would have been having absolute meltdowns.
Right. And it gives women time to prepare, because the fact of the matter is that women are getting pregnant all across this country as we speak. Mm-hmm. You know, women need to know what's happening before they hit a brick wall.
Yeah, exactly. And it's funny because Mexico just liberalized their abortion laws. Because beforehand, they ran several programs where it's like, well, it's banned in the second and third, but we'll allow it in the first trimester. And they found that like child poverty rates and poverty rates decreased. Women had more time to get more money and actually family plan properly. Right. So Mexico legalized it. Argentina legalized it. So you have these intensely Catholic South American states that are legalizing it. And then America's just going backwards. It's like,
unbelievable.
Buddy. Crazy.
We're handing away our rights to men who are LARPing as women, and we're stripping women of everything. You know, but again, we know who to strip women abortion rights to, but we still don't know which one. It's so I can't believe I've survived to be in this era. It's stunning.
Me neither. I mean, honestly, for me, because like personally, I'll be honest. Like, I'm still a virgin. I'm almost 30, and like for me, like I've always been like, I want to invest in a male partner if I decide to have children or not. Because I mean, my mother, when she had my brother, she gave up her career as a banker. She was going to be like a top of the line bank clerk and bank lawyer that they were going to pay for. She gave that up to have my brother. And then she gave up more stuff to have me. And it's like, I understand that sacrifice. And, you know, like, honestly, for me, she said like, if she had an unintended pregnancy, she would not end it, but she would absolutely understand if other women wanted to end it. And I agree. Like, the choice should be there. There should definitely be a more open conversation on this versus the rah, it's murder, or you're just bitches, sluts, and whores. I don't agree with that extremely hostile talk. It's just, it's patronizing, and they call us evil, but it's like, no, you want us to die for something we can't help. Like, I think I'm ranting at this point. So.
No, I love it. I love hearing women just kick. Sometimes it's that flow of thought that gets interesting. Yeah, it's just a really crazy time to be in, you know. And I think a lot of why this is happening is because we're so globalizing. We're destroying not only the extended family unit, now the nuclear unit, which was already a mess, is falling apart. Now the local, our local communities are falling apart. Everything is online. And when that happens and we become so disconnected from each other, we start to become disconnected from people's humanity. A lot of our contact with people is contact with avatars. You and I are having a conversation and I love it. But the fact of the matter is we're having a conversation as an avatar, right?
Yeah.
It's so easy to separate people from the three-dimensional, complex, layered, blood, flesh, and bone that they are when we're so used to interacting with people in this, digital space that is abstract. And we don't have communities the way that we did anymore. We were out seeing each other being around each other, knowing each other's families, their stories, their life. It's so easy to reduce people back down to these really disconnected, just bizarre, two-dimensional avatars that are a reflection of the human that they represent, but they are not that human.
Yeah. I know the time's running out, but I'll add one quick thing. It was interesting because I like medieval history. The Catholic Church in the Middle Ages they used to, like, abortion was like called like an insult, like, oh, you're a living abortion, like that. To them, and it's the same in Islam. They didn't think a fetus was a full person until ensoulment, and that occurs around 20 to 21 weeks, which is ironically when consciousness is granted. So before then, it's like, before the quickening, it wasn't their problem. So this is during the Middle Ages. I'll have to do more reading, but that's what they viewed it back then. And in colonial America, abortion happened all the time. I'm sure the founding fathers knew about it. You had midwives doing it. It was just
animals do it to themselves.
Yeah,
this isn't just like a modern thing, and that's what's so important to recognize.
Yeah, and I remember sometimes I'll tell these like pro-lifers or pro-birthers, like, if you showed the founding fathers a baby with like their brain growing out of their skull or caved-in skull, you showed it to them, they're going to look at that and they're going to think, this is an abomination. Let's get rid of it. Get it away from me. Like, I mean, I'm pretty sure they knew, and I guess I don't think any of them predicted that this would happen. But, you know, all these abortion laws really happened like in the 1880s during Comstock laws and all that stuff. That's going to have to be a conversation for another time because I'm taking up too much time. So, but it is something to understand for people in the abortion debate.
Absolutely.
They've been at this for many years, men wanting to control women's reproductive capacity. So I'll leave it at that.
Thank you so much, Izzy. I really appreciate that. And I do think it's really interesting to sit and to think about the history, and maybe, you know, if anybody would like to send in anything that they know about culturally through history, maybe we can compile some evidence of you know, how this has happened over the ages, but some really interesting things to think about. Thank you so much. I really appreciate your comments. Thanks so much for calling in.
Thanks for having me.
Take care.
See you later. You too.
All right. That was really interesting. All right. I'm going to have to, let's see. Do I have anybody waiting? Okay. No. Perfect. Then this is probably a good time for me to finish up. So I got to get going soon. So I'm going to close down the chat. This was great. And I'm so glad that people were able to eventually start calling in. I know that sometimes, you know, people were a little bit hesitant in the beginning. Chat, you guys are awesome. I really appreciate you guys. And I want to, hold on, let me switch back to my other. I want to mention, what was I thinking about when I was thinking about all of this? While she was talking, she brought up some stuff that I thought was really interesting, and now I can't remember. Let's see what the chat is saying. So, Nancy Ling says we need to not protest at abortion clinics, but arrive with real help, making a way for the mother to be safe and provide resources they need. So I wanted to talk about this. That was interesting, right? I wanted to talk about evolutionary psychology. We've got to remember that every decision that we make, and again, if we're going to talk about, you know, choice feminism, and that every decision that a woman makes isn't necessarily feminism, and that, you know, true feminism and true feminist praxis and theory deconstructs choices and tries to understand the wiring, we've got to understand that every human decision is influenced through things that we aren't aware of and don't know and don't have immediate access to, right? If you look at epigenetics, if you look at, you know, cross-generational trauma, you know, that we actually are still operating from, and there's proof of that trauma that happens from our grandparents, and again, can affect us. And again, like I posted in my community tab about how us as human beings, we begin at a cellular level in the wombs of our grandmothers, right? So at about month 4, female fetuses develop all the eggs that they're ever going to have, all of their gametes.
That's in the womb of our grandmother. So our cellular life began in the womb of our grandmothers. And our mother's cellular life began in the womb of her grandmother, right? And that ball, it constantly, so that it's like imagine the level of trauma. When there's body trauma in a woman, that impacts her on a cellular level. And if she, throughout her entire life, is carrying her eggs with her, our cells reflect trauma and damage. And this isn't just some like frou-frou thing that I'm coming up with. This is based in science, okay? Trauma has a real impact on our genes. It has a real impact on us as a cellular level. So, we've got to understand that decisions that we make as a people and as a species is really impacted by a lot of factors that we can't always see and recognize. And the fact of the matter is, I think a lot of it is, you look at sexual strategy, and if you look at it from a selfish gene theory, then if you look at every single organism in existence has one primary goal, and it's to pass on its genetic information, not just pass it on, but to pass it on successfully, right? Women have a finite number of gametes. They have a finite number of opportunities to produce children, whereas men can produce a lot of children. So there's two sort of strategies, primary strategies that men will take, right? There's the just impregnating any sexual opportunity, a man will take it, right? But this can backfire, because then this can result in a lot of women coming for him and trying to extract resources out of him, right? It can also backfire in that women who become impregnated by men who show no commitment to taking care of them will either abort the baby or not care for the baby, or not put a lot of effort into the baby. So again, the baby might die out or just have a very low quality success rate. So men actually do have an impetus to invest himself in at least one or several of his partners. But again, he has finite resources, material resources, so he chooses which one he really wants to invest in. Now, we know that some men will choose one or two partners to really invest in, but then also go and spread a seed around just in case, right? Because you always assume that, not every single conception is going to result in a healthy, long, line of progeny. It benefits a man for him to have a baby with somebody else. If that woman is investing her resources, her time, her body, her energy into raising that man's child, that's great for him, because now he has more lines of legacy happening throughout the world, throughout society. And the fact of the matter is that these laws do protect men. It's the fact of the matter is that it forces women, rather than, again, if a man is just impregnating just to try to get as many lines started, and the threat is that a woman could decide to abandon or terminate that line that he started, right? That's a threat to men. So what do? We legislate to prevent women the ability to ending that line that he's decided to start. He never had any intention of continuing with that woman. He never had any intention of being there, but we make sure that we force the woman to invest her body. And again, you've got to understand, people are like, oh, we'll just put up for an adoption. Do you not understand? 9 months of life-altering physical changes for many women cannot work throughout that entire time. And for women who are established in their careers, may absolutely jeopardize their employment, their ability to provide for themselves, provide for their existing children, to keep a roof over their heads. Okay, that threatens her ability to survive. That is a very severe thing. You also have to understand that those chemical, that bonding mechanism, that is a huge mother wound to do to a woman. To separate her from her child, even if it was an unwanted child, is a huge, it is an absolute wound, right? And we can't just assume that that's something that's easy for any woman to offer. And, this wonderful, some women want to be selfless, but other women have children to take care of. And if she is so depressed, so mentally preoccupied by the fact that there's another child in the world, and the fact of the matter is that a lot of women who think that, okay, well, I'll just give it up for adoption, they begin bonding throughout the pregnancy. They get to a point where they tell themselves, I can't do this. I'm not going to go through that. I'm going to keep a baby. Even though before, when she was rational, she realized she couldn't keep that, she could not give that child high quality care. So she decides to keep the baby, brings it home when she already has other children, and they struggle predictably. And she already knew that, but she could not break that bond that had already been established. That is cruel to do to women. That is cruel to set women up for a lifetime. A lifetime. That is a lifetime commitment. And even if she does go through with giving up for an adoption, again, you have 9 months of pregnancy. You have childbirth that alters your body permanently, alters your mind permanently. The baby is given up. It takes about 2 years for a woman to restore herself back to pre-pregnancy nutrient and mineral levels in her body. Pregnancy leach calcium from your teeth, from your bones. That can have serious long-term consequences on women. These are not small things to ask for women. So it is very, very cavalier to just say to a woman, well, just, give it up for adoption. No big deal. And again, that's also assuming that there's just plenty of people willing and ready. And that's also assuming that, again, a lot of people are looking to adopt babies. They're looking to adopt white babies. They're looking to adopt male babies. They're looking to adopt healthy babies. They're not so keen on adopting mixed race babies, and they're not so keen on adopting black babies. They're not so keen on adopting babies who have disabilities. So then what? That child wastes away in a state program? I know what that looks like. My best friend who lives with me grew up in foster care. My boyfriend grew up in foster care. Both of them were abused in every way possible. Both of them entered the legal system at around 12. At around 12, both of them began stints in juvenile detention. My boyfriend was in a maximum juvenile facility by the time he was 13 years old. And that started him on a path of criminality. It started him on a path of not being able to reintegrate into society. He was just basically let out and told to figure it out. His prospects in general were already fucked. That is traumatic. And when I tell you, these places, when you criminalize a child and they begin to believe from the age 12, 13 that they are criminals, do you know what that does to the self-concept of a child? And not just to the child, do you know what that does to the wider community? And again, we know, I guess it was like Freakonomics said that, when they put on these hardcore abortion bans, 15 years afterwards, all of a sudden, crime levels were spiking. Why? Because now we have a lot of children who were never wanted, who weren't properly being taken care of, who was just this pain, this anguish, But then on the other hand, if again, and I want to be equitable to both sides, I sit there and think nobody in their right mind, if anybody could be excused for having an abortion, my boyfriend's mother would have been excused. She was addicted to crack cocaine. She was unable to support herself. She, was just a mess. And nobody, I don't think, would have said she was wrong if she had aborted him. And, fast forward 34 years later, he's my best friend. He's my best friend. He's such a blessing in our lives. He's such an important person in my children, to me, my family, and I've been through a lot with him. We've been together for going on 5 years. So it's, on the one hand, nobody could have blamed her for aborting him. But then on the other hand, I'm so glad that she didn't. But that's not something that she chose to continue. And that's wonderful. But it's a huge, we still have a relationship with her. That was still a lifelong commitment that she had. And he went through a lot of things. He went through a lot of really horrific things. If I sat there with him, one day I'll let him sit here and talk about like his life. It's oh my God, it's like soul crushing.
Let's see. Many children want their baby. TPS says so many women want their babies. Many abortions are coerced by parents, partners, and circumstances. That is absolutely true. That is absolutely true. A lot. And again, it is an assault on a woman to require that she go up and extract a baby. Absolutely. There are jobs that will threaten that if you get pregnant, you're out of here. There are partners who will threaten you because they know that there is a backpedal button. They know there is a way to fix that. And that is an assault on a woman. To force a woman to go through an abortion is not a feminist move. That is a horrible, that is a rape. That is a rape of that woman's body, of her sovereignty. To rip a child from her womb is, I think, the most evil transgression that can be committed against a woman. And I think it's just as evil as forcing a child into that woman is forcing a child out of that woman. We've got to look at a balanced issue. I absolutely agree. I absolutely think that this whole minimization of abortion is, it's, sing your abortion, it's no big deal. And calling it a clump of cells, that doesn't do justice. Because then it puts the onus on the woman. Well, why would you keep a baby? It was just a clump of cells. That was your choice. You decided to keep the baby. No big deal. You wanted to keep it going. No. That child was already there. And, and it's not saying that there are not reasons to, it's just, I think the one caller had it right when she was saying that, we are really suffering from a lot of patriarchal programming that we need a lot of healing from. And that it is a much more nuanced situation than we could possibly cover just by, a bunch of sound bites and a bunch of polarized, things going back and forth. And I think that it's going to come down to, we've got to reclaim a connection with our human bodies, our sexed bodies, our sexed reality. We need to come back to having, respect for human life. Respect from human life will protect unwanted pregnancies. When we respect that, that life happens and it is precious, and that women are precious, and that women are human, and women are not just incubators, and that the emotional life of a woman is deeply damaged and scarred. And if you damage a woman, if you harm a woman, you are harming those cellular lives, those children that are already in her gametes, that have already begun their cellular life inside of her body. We've got to hold women as precious, and restore women to their place of power as the sexual gatekeepers of the human species. That is a place of power. We choose which men get to continue their legacy and for which reasons. And if they aren't worthy of it, then none of them do. TPS says Handmaid's Tale is a lot more applicable to surrogacy, prostitution, and reproductive tech than to pro-life beliefs. Red 5 Golf says Lisa Fenwick, you are wrong. Dystopian. You guys are going fast. I can't see. You can Red 5 Golf. You cannot just walk away from a child, male or female. There are ramifications on both sides. Yeah, some men do get away with walking away though. They're not supposed to, but if they can't track him down to get DNA testing, or the mom doesn't have the legal literacy to do it, or he's able, some of these men will lie about their real names and things like that. CCO says, I'm sure they'll make women keep babies they can't support and then force them to give them to trans women. Ugh. That's a scary thought. TPS, how do we build justice if abortion is illegal and socially encouraged? Coercers will always fall back on abortion. Yeah, no, I agree with that too. Red 5 Golf and TPS, I really do appreciate your listen, and I have a lot of compassion and empathy for both sides. I really do. I have a lot of compassion and empathy for pro-life side and pro-abortion and pro-choice side, and I do think that there are pro-woman aspects to both, and I think that there are anti-woman aspects to both. Neither is the champion that the either side thinks that it is. Women are human. Dystopian deep dives. Yes, they are. Women are human. As the makers and destroyers. Yep. Yes. The elusive vulture. I can hold out for my whole life. I'm super trad. Men, on the other hand, need to stop living hedonistic, purposeless lives. Yeah, and you know what? We really do have the power to really like encourage movement and change in men. I'm telling you, if men can no longer access sex, if the men can no longer, get access easy pregnancies and on-demand sex, I promise you, there will be changes. And if not, then fuck them. And we'll wait till the few come around who are good, and then they will see the difference in treatment, right? We really do. We have a lot more power than we are kept to believe that we are somehow having to prove ourselves to men. Don't ever let a man, or don't ever let society convince you, the gatekeeper of all human reproduction, you are the ultimate prize. A wife, even outside of bearing his children, a wife, a female partner, is the ultimate achievement for a man. Why? His life will profoundly improve. And we know that. That's not just like me saying it. We know statistically. We know that that's true. Men who are partnered with women's lives improve dramatically. And I've talked to men about this, and they admit it. My boyfriend admits it. He said everything that we do is centered around trying to attract a woman. And the best thing that men can do who are insecure is to convince women that it's the other way around, that it's women who need to earn the man. That will never be true. We may bear the reproductive burden, and that's our cross to bear. But you know what our right is that we get to choose who will continue. That is a massive power. Don't ever let anyone convince you out of that. And not just to bear his children, but which men will be locked in and woven into this fabric of culture and society, or who will just be left to be isolated and solitary. That is a massive power. Lucid dreams. A man can get women pregnant, then use his power to take the children from her, and then make her out to be a deadbeat mother while she suffers the physical, mental, and financial fallout. Yeah, we also do know that this is why we've got to, vote in, pro-women judges. Thankfully, the family courts still are, for the most part, pretty pro-mother and do favor the mother, and we know that. But they are starting to get more like equitable now. And the thing is, the sexes aren't equitable. We're not equal. So there is no equity unless we recognize our disparities and our differences. Is there a name? Ariana says, is there a name we can assign to this wider perspective? Pro-life versus pro-choice is so polarizing, and neither name fits. I think just pro-woman. And I think that we need to remove that pro-woman automatically assumes a pro-choice. Pro-woman takes the individual woman into account. It takes women into account. And it bucks all of these, political Klingons that try to subvert the conversation. But, all right, guys, I got to get going. Thank you so much for this conversation. Thank you to everybody who called in. You guys are amazing. Sorry I got off to like a fucked up slow start. Dystopian Deep Dives, thank you so much for being my moderator. Thanks for staying with me the whole time. You're awesome. Thanks for helping me in the beginning. I really appreciate you. You've been a really, really huge blessing to this channel. Just, helping me moderate and helping me keep a lot of the chats going. You've totally done that on your own, and I see you and I appreciate you. Ariana, everybody, Izzy, everyone who called in, I really appreciate you guys. I love having across the aisle different perspectives. And thanks so much. Thank you. And if you guys want to have this conversation more, let me know. We can do this again, or let me know what we want to continue to build on and talk about in the next call in. So just stay in touch with me. If anybody needs to email me, it's aslightlytwistedfemale@gmail.com. If anybody wants to make a contribution to the channel, I have like my PayPal and Cash App in my bio. Contributions are really helpful so I can keep doing this work.
But to everybody who shares my videos, likes, comments, thank you guys. It means a lot. Please like the video if you haven't. It'll really help. And just thank you so much. This has been a really, really wonderful experience building this platform. It's been a really intense experience, but it's been really, really rewarding, and it would be nothing without you guys. You guys are what, it would just be me talking to myself and talking to the wall. So learned a lot from you. I'm really appreciative for you. Thank you so much. Let's keep building. Let's keep learning. Let's keep our minds open. Okay. Thanks, guys. Have a great rest of your day. Thank you for everything. You are deeply, deeply appreciated. And just remember, women are human and you have the power. Take care.